Hi.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good yourself?
Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Paul Walton.
Hi, Paul.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Same here. And Paul, I understand that today you'd like to talk a little bit about accessibility in Montreal.
Yes, I sure would.
I thank you for agreeing to be interviewed for the Realize an Accessible Montreal project.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's my pleasure.
So what would you like to talk about?
For me, the two subjects that I would like to talk about is accessibility in public spaces.
Okay.
I've always found a particular challenge because I've always noticed that when I'm going out somewhere to a new place, the first thing that I'm asking myself, or like when I have to find out more information on the place, is, am I going to be able to get through the front door to start
So you
off?
call ahead and ask questions.
Right.
Which is work.
Exactly. Like for instance, I can call ahead to a place and say, "Are you accessible?" And I've had the experience when I actually get there, and lo and behold, there's steps to get in, or there's a small step that my chair wouldn't be able to go over.
And they've told you on the phone that yes, indeed it is, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. So then that sort of defeats the whole purpose of my coming out in the first place. And then I've had the experience of going into, getting into a place that is accessible, but then, for example, if I need to use the washroom, that in itself is not always accessible either.
Right.
So that's question 2. Am I going to be able to get into the washroom or not? And then I'll say the same thing, oh yeah, the washroom is accessible, and I get in, and so I go to the washroom, and then, no, not exactly what they were telling me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, back in 2015, I went to where the labor court is here in Montreal. Now this is a government building.
The labor board?
Yeah, the labor board.
Okay.
And so I was there for something, and
Where is that building?
I believe I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember where. It's in the East End.
Okay.
And so then I was asking one of the people that I was with, can you tell me where the accessible washroom is? And he says, oh, sure, there's one down the hall, so you got to go way down the hall and it's to your right. So I did. I got there, and my chair couldn't even fit through the door.
And did it have an accessible symbol on it?
I believe it did, yes.
Yeah.
So then I had to go look for another one.
And I have to tell you that the things you're telling me,
Yeah.
it's not the first or even just the second or third time I've heard them.
Right.
I'm hearing it from many people and all over the city. But in a government building, that's just outrageous.
So then I had to go looking for another one. Unfortunately, I had somebody with me, but what I ended up having to do was I had to use, now if you can understand this, I had to use the women's washroom.
I've seen that too.
Yeah, with the person helping me to be able to go. So that was an experience I will never forget.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. It was unexpected and unpleasant.
Absolutely.
And you obviously had important business at the building.
Right.
Right.
And like you just said, of all places I thought for sure would be accessible,
Yeah.
in this day and age, a government building not having accessible washrooms for people like myself, that was a real shocker.
It is. Are you a longtime Montrealer?
I've been here all my life.
I'm not. I'm very recent, and that's why I started this project, is because I've been quite shocked by encounters with inaccessibility and stories. And I'm wondering if you have an opinion about why there's so much inaccessibility in Montreal.
It's because for myself, I believe that the governments just don't want to, invest in improving the infrastructures to make buildings more accessible for us. Because even though we have a law now that says that all new buildings are to be accessible for people with disabilities, it's a good step. But then what do you do with the older buildings? Oh, well, we don't have to do anything because they don't fall under the law, before the law was passed. So.
It's very, very frustrating.
Right.
So do you find yourself going out anyway and just kind of going, well, I might meet barriers, but...
No, I do go out, yeah, but there always is that question of, yeah, I might find barriers, so I do, but I always do try to find out before I go, like, is this place going to be accessible, and is there a lot of room for our chairs to move around? Because sometimes if a group of us, like, for example, decide to go out to eat, is there going to be enough space between the tables for our chairs to be able to be seated properly?
Right.
And one of the things I've always noticed, it seems that when a group of us go out, we always end up doing, I say it jokingly, but we end up sort of re-renovating the restaurant because the staff have to move all the tables around, the chairs, and then put everything back when we leave.
Well, I hope you make them.
Well, oh yeah, we do.
Good.
Oh yeah, we do.
Because that's what integration in society is. It's just, if you have to move furniture, big deal.
That's
it's just
right.
furniture. You don't harm people for the sake of the furniture.
No,
you move the
absolutely
furniture
not. Yeah,
for the sake of
exactly.
the people.
Sure.
That's what I think.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Is there anything else that this has been a wonderful interview. Thank you for sharing such a personal experience.
You're welcome.
And is there anything you'd like to add to wrap up?
To wrap up, and the other thing that I was noticing, that accessibility that we really need to have improved on, is the accessibility of our sidewalks.
Oh,
That is especially a big thing, because I've noticed many times, like when I'm going down the sidewalk, going somewhere, I get to the end of the sidewalk and say in the beginning I can go up on a sidewalk and that part is accessible, no problem. But then when I get to the other end of it, maybe the other end of it's not accessible. So then
Yep.
I got to sort of go. I've got to double back and try to find the place where I can go down.
it's exhausting and
Exactly.
frustrating.
And just to show you how inconsiderate like the city is when it comes to accessible sidewalks, like right now they're doing some road repair on the two sidewalks in front of us, like here on Cavendish and
I went out there and I actually
Yeah.
took some photographs.
Yeah.
Because that's part of my project too,
Right.
is photographing barriers that people tell me about and also posting them and asking, wow, what is the city doing about this?
Right, because like just today, I had to go to the pharmacy for something. So normally, I'd go out and I'd just go, it's just on the corner, so I'd go down just across the street into the pharmacy. But now with them doing the repair, I ended up going down Cavendish, up Monkland, then down Benny to get around to the pharmacy.
And not only is it frustrating, but we're being issued these warnings with the 40-degree, the heat wave, in which 63 people died last year in these same weather conditions, and the government is constantly issuing warnings telling us to stay cool and stay in cool places, spend a few hours a day in an air-conditioned place. But if you're disabled,
Right.
and you're having to go an extra, how many extra minutes did it take you just to go to the pharmacy than if it was accessible?
Probably an extra 10 or 15, I'd say.
An extra 15 minutes in
Yeah.
the kind of heat that's killing people, or you
Yeah.
could just get regular old heat stroke,
That's
sunstroke, right? Is not okay. You're
You know.
actually risking people's lives.
Right, and as Cindy was saying before, as we're getting older, it takes us more energy to do the things that we need to do just on a daily basis.
And heat affects us more.
Sure, and heat affects us more.
And when you have certain disabilities, certain conditions, the heat
And
affects you more.
cold does too. The same thing can happen in the, wintertime.
Having to navigate ice,
Right.
having to,
And ice is even more dangerous because
Yep.
I've hit ice, and when your chair starts slipping and sliding
Wow.
on black ice,
wow.
yeah.
So people with disabilities are at much more risk of being injured or becoming even more ill.
Exactly, and just to give you a small example, over the years during winter, when I've had to go out and do things, sometimes our city does such a wonderful cleaning job, cleaning cleaning the sidewalks or so. So I've ended up having to use the streets sometimes just to be able to navigate in the snow, and then I've had sort of the city security pull me over and say, sir, you should be using the sidewalk. I'm like, well, I would if they were you know, de-iced properly, or I wouldn't have a,
Well, exactly.
you know,
Yeah. I had a very, very bad fall this winter on the ice.
Right.
Very bad. I couldn't even sit up for several weeks.
right.
I know what you're talking about. It's
Mhm.
very dangerous. So Paul, thank you very
You're
much
very welcome.
for your words and your experiences.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.